Well, welcome everyone. This is a meeting of the Pioneer Valley Regional School District Committee. It is Thursday, April 14th, 2022. It is now 7:07 p.m. We are meeting here in the Pioneer Library as well as via Google Meet. This meeting is being held via Google Meet and in person in accordance with the Governor of Massachusetts' March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, GL Chapter 30A, Section 20. In addition, a link to view the school committee meeting will be on the website at pvrsdk12.org, or you can view it at Facebook/BNC Television. The public is welcome to attend in person or to watch via the links above, but in the event of an issue with the links, the public meeting in person shall continue to proceed. So I will go ahead and call the meeting to order. As I stated, it is 7:07 p.m., so we will start with a roll call vote.
Melissa Gary, Bernardston here.
Stephanie Winslow, Northfield here.
Karen O'Neill, Leiden, here.
Alan Genevieve Warwick, here.
Michelle Jeruso, Leiden, here.
Raina Dastu, Northfield here.
Robin Knight, Leiden, here.
David Young, here.
Great, and Julie Burke, Northfield here. All right, we will begin now with citizens' comments. I don't believe, Mary.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Absolutely, if you could just state your name and your town.
Sure. Mary Bowen, Northfield, Massachusetts. I am wondering, I understand we're down to 3 candidates now for the superintendent position. That's super exciting. And I would like to know how our citizens can go about creating a public forum with the 3 candidates in order to have a question and answer, short little form. And then they would, and we would respectfully request a follow-up meeting / forum with the select board to review that Q&A with the, that we would have with the candidates. And the candidates would not need to be present for that follow-up. It would just be with you, the select board. So ideally, what we would like is to meet with the 3 candidates, be able to voice our joys, not joys and concerns, that's what we'd like to do with the select board. But with the candidates, we would just like to be able to ask some questions of them, seeing as there's a lot of changes going on right now. And a lot of citizens have come to me and asked that I represent them today.
Okay, so your ask, just for clarification for the whole committee, you would like an open forum for the towns?
Yes.
For each town or collectively?
Right, whatever public would like to
Okay.
present themselves.
And then in addition, following that, you would like?
A public forum with the select board to review that Q&A form.
So a public forum with select board?
You know what I mean, Julia?
I don't. So
Okay.
maybe someone else
Do
understands it.
you mean this? You mean the school committee, not the select board?
Oh, do I keep saying select board?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I meant to say,
That's
you know,
I was confused.
I am so sorry. I meant the school committee, you, respectfully. The school committee.
And the select board,
It has nothing to do with this.
okay.
Okay.
Okay,
I meant the school committee. I'm a select board member,
Yes.
so it's just a habit of mine. The citizens would like to have a Q&A with
Yep.
the 3 candidates.
Yep.
And then after that, maybe not the same evening, they would like to have a follow-up form with the school committee to review that Q&A and voice their joys and concerns about the 3 candidates and the whole process.
okay.
Did that sound better? Thank you.
Yeah, no, that is better. Thank you, Mary.
Okay.
Okay.
And then how do I go about hearing an answer to that?
So we are actually going to be discussing the superintendent search process. I'm going to be including that with my chair report. So in a few moments, we're going to be discussing it. As a rule, we don't respond typically as a committee to the citizens directly during the meeting. But
Oh, I see.
just so that you know, we are going to be discussing the process in just a few minutes.
Okay,
So,
and then how would I understand if that was going to a vote that the citizens could meet with the candidates?
that should be determined
At
very
this
soon.
meeting?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you all very much.
Yes, you're welcome.
I
Thank
appreciate
you.
your time.
Thanks. All right, so we don't have any further citizens' comments this evening. So our student representative, Ryan, he'll give his report.
All right, thank you. So the senior class is planning a class trip to Mesquamacut Beach, Rhode Island. We had a very successful calendar raffle fundraiser that we're putting on this month. We worked really hard. We made a lot of money, and I can't thank Lucy, Kenzie, and Ms. Brown enough for the hard work they've been putting in to organize this trip, and they'll tell you more about it later tonight. So thank you, guys. The boys varsity baseball team is off to a great start. They're 4-0, so that's always exciting. Spring sports are doing quite well. 12th grade student Marina Duclos is putting on a school litter cleanup on April 23rd. I think that's a Saturday, to clean up trash around the school and on campus. It's really important that we're striving to keep our school and our community clean. And that's open to the entire community, not just students. So I encourage anyone to come out and do that. Ms. Kinsella and I had 2 more successful visits to the elementary schools this past week. NES students we were so impressed with them. They were so focused and organized. They had these great daily routines. They knew exactly what to do, and they followed them extremely well. And then at BES, there was just an overall really happy vibe from all the students. It was great to see them getting outside in the warmer weather, playing games again with no masks, and they just looked like they were really enjoying themselves. So that's always great to see. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to go visit the elementaries. I'm sure you mentioned last time how much they love seeing Ryan, so thank you, Ryan. All right, so we'll move on to the chair report, and I wanted to devote the time essentially to get, oh, sorry.
Is there a reason we skipped over the minutes?
That was an error.
Oh.
Thank you for letting me know. We need to go back to the minutes. I appreciate it, Ellen. So the minutes. I got too excited to hear from Ryan. Okay, the March 10th minutes.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to accept the March 10th minutes.
Okay,
Yes.
With maybe one small addition on page 3.
all right.
On the 3rd paragraph down where it says Julie Burke, 2nd line, I think it should say 3-year contract.
Yep.
So just add in year. And that was all I found.
All
Okay.
right.
Actually,
Raina?
the line after that, at the end of the sentence, the original, I think, 3, also,
Yeah.
there is also a typo there.
Year.
Original E year, it should be 3 year.
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
Good.
That's interesting. It was
Yeah.
the same, but the opposite, right?
So I'll second it with those corrections, if that's okay.
So I read them, and I just couldn't remember. So when we have in here, and maybe I misunderstood, when we voted the budget, right? Were we voting on what it would cost the expense at each building and totaling that up? Is that how we were voting that?
I can tell you how we voted.
Because I'm wondering, did we have another vote that would have given to the towns the assessment that they would be putting on their warrant?
The committee did not vote the assessments.
Do you have a suggestion regarding that, or?
My understanding is that the assessments are calculated by the business officer and sent to the towns by the district treasurer. The assessments are not voted by the committee. The budget amount is voted by the committee.
Okay, if that's how we do it in this district. And I understand it's calculated that way, and it's usually, well, not usually. In some cases, it's given to the school committee, so the school committee knows, because they're doing the bottom line, and then they're they're telling the towns what it is. So I'm fine with that. I just thought I missed something because I was expecting, I guess, that I would then see how that translates to assessment. So thank you for the explanation.
There were, I believe, at
The
our,
assessments are in the packet.
Yeah.
they were
And
in
they're
the
gonna-
packet for
yeah.
the, yeah.
Yeah, so
I
we
guess
just
there
saw
just
them and
wasn't a
didn't-
separate
yeah.
vote
Yeah.
on,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay, thank you.
Okay. So there was a motion, a second, as amended. Any further discussion about the March 10th minutes? Okay, Melissa?
Melissa Gary, yes.
Stephanie Winslow, yes.
Ethan Swartz, yes.
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Alan Genovese, yes.
Michelle Jeruso, yes.
Raina Dastu, yes.
Robin Knight, yes.
David Young, yes.
And Julie Burke, yes. All right, thank you very much. And now the March 17th, 2022 minutes.
I'll move we accept the March 17th meeting minutes.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Okay, Melissa?
Melissa Gary, yes.
Stephanie Winslow, yes.
Ethan Swartz, yes.
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Alan Genovese, yes.
Michelle Jeruso, yes.
Raina Dastu, yes.
Robin Knight, yes.
David Young, yes.
And Julie Burke, yes. Perfect. All right, and Ryan, please feel free to stay or go. All right, now we're back to the chair report. So I wanted to dedicate that time specifically to the superintendent search process. I do know that it is also listed under our subcommittee reports, but this was directly in relation to, so we can either combine that, you can either skip it when we get to that part, but we wanted to specifically address what would happen moving forward. So I know that the superintendent search subcommittee has been doing a ton of excellent work to get us to this point. So Michelle, yes, Michelle as chair, I'll give you the opportunity to begin that discussion, but I also wanted to allow you the opportunity to leave the room during this part, or
I
you're
will.
welcome
May I
to-
make one
Yes,
comment, please?
sure.
Mary Bowen, it's nice to see you, as always. Our colleague from the Northfield Select Board, Mary Bowen, shared during the citizens' comments period. Mary made note that there are 3 people moving forward in the superintendent search process. I am a candidate in that process. I was informed 4 hours ago that I was moving forward in the process. I am not sure, and I do not understand how it is possible that a member of a town select board would know the number of candidates who are moving forward in the process when I myself was notified 4 hours ago. I note this as a concern.
Thank you.
Can I address that concern?
No,
No.
Okay.
not outside of citizens' comments, but
Okay.
yeah. All right, Patricia, I'll notify you when we're back. Okay. Yeah, to that point, I don't believe that the full committee is aware of how many finalists there are.
No,
Okay.
No.
no, we were planning on giving our update this
Yes.
evening.
The whole town knows.
Oh.
This didn't come from the select board.
I need to
It came from
ask
the
that
town.
you not give comments.
sorry.
It's okay,
Sorry.
it's okay.
Yeah, I didn't get it from the select board, I got it from the town citizens.
Okay. Michelle?
Well, that's very disheartening.
Mhm.
That means that someone from our committee,
Meaning the
the
superintendent search subcommittee.
superintendent search subcommittee, after signing a confidentiality statement, has gone out to the community before we had a chance to come before this committee. And I was the one responsible for calling the candidates. And I did call Patricia as a finalist. And I did have a talk with her that if she wanted to leave the room tonight, she could. And actually, she asked me if she could leave the room because it would be very uncomfortable. So I really don't know, why people engage in a process and they tell a subcommittee to their face that they will follow the ground rules that we put forward, and then they would go out to the community before we even had a chance to do our due diligence, because that was the process. There were volunteers from this subcommittee that felt we needed to do a very fair and equitable process, and we did. We had a representative from PVREA Union. We had a representative from PVSP Union. We had an administrator. We had 2 parents. We had people from the school committee. And we had a administrator on there from the town, and we had a finance committee from a town. And we...
Do you mind stating which towns? Or is that?
The town in Northfield had an administrator, and the town of Bernardston had a finance committee member who was on our committee. And as you know, we created a new brochure for this superintendent search. It was on MASC and it was on School Spring. We received 12 candidates. Out of those 12 candidates, we had a screening tool. Anyone can look at the screening tool. Joanne will have all these tools for future if, down the road, shall we need such a tool, because this was newly created. There was no policies and procedures on how to do a search for a superintendent. We worked very well creating this tool. Our first meeting, we looked at the candidates' resumes. Well, I think that was actually our second meeting, because the search subcommittee of the school committee just met to do the search tool and the advertising. And then down the road, when we brought in the community members. And we looked at all those candidates. We, read the resumes, and we felt that we wanted to bring forward 5 semifinalists. Last Friday, during the day, we were there 4 hours maybe, starting at 2 p.m., 1:30, wasn't it? We interviewed 3 candidates. This Tuesday evening, we interviewed 2. Out of that process, we came up with 3 finalists to bring before the school committee. From that discussion on Tuesday night, we decided we would come before you, the full school committee, talk about when we would have those 3 finalists here to interview. We talked about doing a building tour and having an open community forum for any parent, anyone in the community to come and meet the candidates. Now, do we have that all written in a template? No, because we don't, we were going to ask the school committee tonight how we should go forward with that. What are the dates that we want to do it? This information has really caused some concern for me. And we have a candidate right here. And it's really too bad that that got out, because if she wasn't informed, I think it really, what's the word I'm looking for, the process, and I believe we would have had to start all over again, because it would not be fair. So I'm very disappointed to hear that, as chair of that subcommittee.
Want me to add to that for a minute?
Sure.
So, at our meeting, we talked about the expectation of the, what the school committee's expectation might be. So in talking to Michelle, I followed up with a conversation with the chair to say, we're going to be looking for, some direction in terms of, do you want us to come up with questions for the committee? Do you want us to, are you thinking of, do you want the search committee to come up with a proposal for the committee to consider? And that might include a site visit. It might include a public forum where the community could come and have input, and then, of course, followed by the committee interviewing the candidates. So I shared that with the chair. She said that, yes, she would like us to come forward with a proposal. So I shared that with the chair, that we should probably look at having some questions. So at our last meeting, at the end of all the interviews, we as a group, identified questions for consideration. And I think we agreed by consensus of what those would be. So that's the other part of the process that we put out there. So you're well aware of what we'd be looking for.
If I could, just on the questions, they are different from the questions that we asked the screening committee. So that was part of the whole discussion of, like, we want to kind of ask the same things, but we can't, we need new questions. So there was a fair amount of thought given into it.
Excellent, thank you. Does anyone else have any more comments before we dive into what our next steps will be? All right, so I want to reiterate, quite honestly, my heart sank when I heard 3 candidates were announced, and I feel embarrassed and sad for our current interim superintendent to learn of things this way. We hold ourselves to a high integrity, and we expect that of the members who join us, who we invite to come to the table to engage in a meaningful, thoughtful, fair process of such an important decision. I'm not sure where the breakdown is, but I want it to stop immediately. So, moving forward, we need to come up with a time for us to meet with the 3 candidates. We have thankfully received, you did your due diligence to come up with some questions, so that way the full committee didn't have to spend the time to then meet and decide upon new questions. So first of all, I would like to see how the full committee feels about utilizing the questions that our subcommittee colleagues came up with in order to interview our 3 finalists. Is there any discussion surrounding that?
I can just share, the process was we reached out to MASC, and they gave us questions that previous district had asked in the process, as well as guidelines. And so we looked at those and tried to have one from a curriculum area, special education, town governance, leadership, and so forth, which he suggested try to get one from each of the areas. And then we, from that list, had conversations about this fits our district, this is appropriate, this one is not. And there were a lot of questions. So we boiled it down to, I think in the end there was 10 or 11. Well, it was 8, and then we had the one at the end, and then another member had an excellent question that we added. So we might be up to 10, but
Okay.
that's how that came about.
Okay. So If there's no further discussion or there's no objection, perhaps we should do, though, a quick roll call vote to accept the questions that we will be, and, you know, the full committee's not privy to what questions were asked, obviously, of the, so as long as we know that they are new questions, they were well thought out, and they were vetted by the MASC, I think that we can move forward with a roll call vote to, well, first, I guess we'd need a motion to accept the questions that the subcommittee has brought forward for the finalists.
I move that we accept the questions brought forward by the subcommittee for use in the finalist interviews.
Great. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Just to point out, that doesn't preclude during the interview, if there are other things to
right.
follow up, anyone can ask additional questions. So I look at that as the nucleus.
Thank you. Melissa, and then Nathan?
Sorry. I also believe, and there was a lot of executive session, open session, but I thought the questions that we created was open session.
Correct.
So there is availability.
Okay.
If people wanted to know what the questions were, that was an open.
Okay, perfect.
That was not executive. So if school committee members, community members want to see what we already did ask, and then the questions that is available.
Perfect. Okay. Nathan and then Robin.
It might be good for the full committee to look at the questions and order them
Yes.
before we ask them.
Okay. I think typically, or we did that last time for the interim superintendent interviews that we did that before we assigned one to each person, I believe. So that's something that we could potentially do on the day of the interviews ahead of time.
Okay.
Robin?
I know this is a reach, but is there any way that we could combine those events? I mean, could we invite the public to the school committee interviews and then give them a little bit of time, even just 15 minutes at the end of each interview to ask a question? I don't know that it has to be like a debate forum. Couldn't they possibly, in the interest of timing, we could do an interview, we could give interested town members 15 minutes to ask questions and then move on to the next interview, rather than make this a 3-meeting process.
Thank you, Robin. No, we will discuss that next. We're just
okay,
going to
fine.
finish this motion.
I'm sorry.
First. No, that's okay. We'll move on to the next process, part of the process next. All right, anything else about this motion? Okay.
Oh,
The motion was to accept the.
okay.
Yeah,
I
the interview
guess I got
questions.
confused by Nathan's comment. I'm good with that.
Okay. Melissa?
Melissa Gary, yes?
Stephanie Winslow, Northfield, yes.
Nathan Swartz, yes?
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Alan Genovese, yes.
Michelle Geruso, yes.
Raina Dastu, Northfield, yes.
Robin Knight Blyden, yes.
David Young, I'm abstaining because I think this is silly to be voting on this. We can do a lot of things by consensus that aren't controversial. Let's try to save some time.
Thank you, David. And Julie Burke, Northfield, yes. All right. So now we'll move on. So Robin suggested the next part of the process, which is, so several things have been mentioned. We have building tours mentioned. We have open forums for the towns or staff, or really anyone who from any of the 4 towns that would like to come and speak with each of the candidates. So, and then we have the interviews to conduct and the deliberations regarding those. So, Alan?
And one other, I think, and whether or not you want to do a site visit.
I
Yeah,
meant building
building,
tour.
that's
Oh,
the site.
so when you say building tour, I guess I was thinking it differently.
Okay.
Because a site visit, you're seeing everything in their buildings, administration, and so forth. So in this instance, you could, to Robin's question, you could bring the candidates in on the same day. You could have someone.
Same day as interviews?
Yes.
Okay.
So you could have someone usher them around. Sometimes it's the administrative assistant to the superintendent, but they can bring it from building to building. They go into a building. It's sort of turned over to the principal, who sort of coordinates some of the activities happening in that school. And you arrange it so that paths don't cross. They're in different schools, they're different places here and so forth. Then there's a little bit of breather, and you have a place, it might be in the library, where you would have one of the candidates scheduled to come in, but it could be anywhere, and that would be the meet and greet for the public. You could do that in the evening. They just learn about the community, get something to eat. They're doing whatever. They have some alone time, but then they come back during their scheduled time where the towns, they can do their meet and greet and questions. If you weren't doing a feedback from that and it was a meet and greet and just sort of get to know the candidates, you could follow up that evening with a staggered, interview of the candidates. If you are not, I'm unless there's a survey or some way to share that, I think you'd have to then have a meeting in between to get the feedback from those meet and greets, and then schedule your interview. So there's a couple of pathways to consider.
There's also a couple of things to consider, one of which is school vacation week next week. So I really want to be mindful of families that may be away during school vacation week, or staff, teachers, staff, they may have plans during school vacation week. So that's also a caveat, Michelle.
And I know of some vacations of the candidates in May, the beginning of May. So
That's good to know.
that's what we're getting into, as well as other districts are making offers right now. And if we wait too long,
'Tis the season for
yeah,
for finding jobs in the schools. Yep.
yeah. So we have to work around some of those things also.
Okay. So we have some big decisions to make because, we certainly don't want to have any of our candidates, finalists, choose other positions in the meantime. And we certainly want to make sure that we are completely following the process as we had intended to, with as much input from as many people as humanly possible. Robin?
Do you think, again, okay, so what Alan said, and I can see the concern about the feedback, but could we not, after the the meet and greets would be individual. Or I don't even know if it would be a meet and greet. I think it would be more, when we do in my mind, I'm thinking when we do the interview, we invite interested townspeople, we give them a few minutes to ask questions, and then they can have a form just like we do, and they can rate their candidates on the form. I don't think we have to publicly dissect the pros and cons. I think we can give like we did it last time, we had a form and we rated people, and we could give them the same form. They can be there for the interviews, they can ask a few questions, they can submit their forms the same at the end of the interview process, and they've had a chance to meet people, to ask questions, and also to give their feedback. And then that would save us the in-between meeting.
Thanks, Robin. I also want to make clear that none of these things are required, by any kind of law.
Right.
Essentially, the school committee at any point could appoint anyone superintendent, which I know seems, but that's the way that, any legality, that's the way it's handled. The school committee appoints the superintendent.
Right.
Can I just make
Yep, go ahead, Robin.
Can I make one more comment? Just
Sure.
as a person, I think this is really, I think that, I know I understand the process. I get my head wrapped around the transparency. I understand, what happened last time, but this is really difficult for our present superintendent. We are asking her to give 100% for the next couple weeks, and meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting, which is fine. She's getting paid for it. That's cool. But I just think it's extremely, I'm not happy about that part of the process.
Thank you, Robin. Melissa?
So when we talked about this, as a subcommittee about what's the process moving forward, my vision was more of the lines that the candidate could come forward, be available in the library, let's say. Townspeople, citizens could come and ask some questions, but be not necessarily like a meet and greet type of like schmoo, walking around with like a name tag, but a little bit more formal, right? Have the candidate give a couple minutes on who they are, where they're from, what they're, get to have the citizens know something, right, about them. And then if there's questions or there's something that they want to ask more information on, they can come up, ask the question. Any of us as school committee members can be there present. I know that all plan on seeing how everyone's kind of interacting. And then once that process is over, and I'm thinking all in the same day, we have, I'm thinking a special school meeting, school committee meeting, special one. And then we have citizens' comments. We have citizens' comments for 20 minutes. And so if citizens want to come and share their joys or concerns or anything that they have with us as a committee, that's their time to do that as citizens. And so as much as I want to make sure we're all collaborative and working together, this has been, clearly as shown tonight, a difficult process. There's been bumps, in the road. However, we're also the ones that are charged with providing our students the best education possible and the hiring of the school committee, of the superintendent. Okay. And so I want as many people's input as possible, but at this point in the game, with some hesitations of some decisions people have made, I just think it's appropriate to do a citizens' comments there, and not to have a deliberation with anyone wearing town hats or whatever. That is for the meet and greet. And then if you want to share something during the citizens' comments, I think that's appropriate.
Okay. Alan?
I appreciate those comments. I actually would acquiescence to that model. When I used meet and greet, and it's probably not a good choice of words, I'm looking at a sort of a town meeting format, which is, basically open, and the person does just what you're talking, and then people can make comments, ask questions, tell them what they would like to about the district or whatever, and we time that. I do like, again, in the perfect world, what was presented makes a lot of sense. However, from a superintendent standpoint, I'm sure every candidate is out looking, and the fact is that we are on a very, very tight timeline, and because of that, I would happily, from a personal standpoint, move to trying to truncate that a little bit so a decision could be made by the committee and the candidates would know. So I'm fine with that.
Anyone else before Robin again? Oh, Renee?
Just have a comment.
Sure.
And again, just to provide some historical perspective, and I may be misremembering, so I apologize for that ahead of time. I remember a process whereby candidates came to the Kiva, which is a good presentation space. And honestly, I think they did a brief introduction, as I remember. There were a few questions they were asked. The community was in the Kiva, and as you alluded to, the final decision lays with the school committee. So the school committee was obviously present during that time, and they just watched and observed, and that was part of the interview process, like how they interacted with the community. And then potentially maybe that same evening, if people are crunched for time and you want to be respectful of, maybe that could be in the afternoon and then a formal interview session in the evening or something. I just brainstorming, but I just have a remembering of, and this was more for principals actually than the superintendent. The last few processes were open meetings just at the school committee for the last several superintendents, as I remember it. Again, with the disclaimer that I could be misremembering. But the Kiva is a nice space
Yeah.
for both observation and interaction, and it's
Yes.
more personable than
Yes.
this space and the auditorium.
Yes. No, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Robin?
Can I just clarify, we're not having the three people on stage and people asking questions, right? We're
No.
talking about individually.
Yeah, individual.
Okay, great, thank you.
At least that was my understanding,
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah.
Okay,
They wouldn't
okay.
even know, they'd have a time slot.
Yeah, it'd be a
before
time.
Right.
And then we.
You
bring
need
them
a
out
moderator,
when they're
you need a moderator, you know,
Yes,
to move
yes.
things along, people
Yes.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just the vibe I'm getting from the committee, I will be so bold as to suggest that we could entertain a motion for having a public forum in the Kiva that is, has a moderator, that the school committee is welcome to attend, that it will be, we will specify the amount of time per candidate. Anyone that arrives will have the opportunity, will give the candidate the opportunity to share some information about themselves, and then we'll open it up for questions and answers for the rest of the period. That will happen ×3 back to back. And then later on that day, in the evening perhaps, we will have 3 interviews, again, back to back. We will, 45 minutes per with a 15-minute discussion period of the committee in between. And then we will invite, we will open up citizens' comments. So anyone who wants to weigh in on the candidates can do so.
After all 3 were done.
After all 3 are done. And then we will deliberate and choose our candidate.
So moved.
Second.
Right, any further discussion? All right, Melissa?
Melissa Gary,
Oh, yeah.
yes.
Stephanie Winslow, yes.
Ethan Schwartz, yes.
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Alan Genovese, yes.
Michelle Jeruso, yes.
Raina Jastu, yes.
Robin Knight, yes.
David Young, yes.
And Julie Burke, Northfield, yes. All right, oh, that's lovely.
What about site visits? Are you still figuring on that, or?
You make a good point.
What was it?
She asked about building tour and site visits.
Right, so site visits, building,
Sorry.
Yeah.
oh, well, I'm,
Yeah, there's 2 different.
They are different, aren't
Yes,
they?
they are.
oh, okay.
So a building tour would essentially be,
It's the candidate, we're using different things. A site visit is when we go to their site.
Yes.
And do all this. That's how I got confused.
Correct.
Building
Oh,
tour
okay.
Is when
That is
we're
what it's
bringing
like.
them here.
so it'd be a building tour.
And so I assumed, which I should not have, that
No,
the
building
day
tour.
that we're doing this, that they're going to be
They would do
moving
that as
all
well.
around the different
That's- yes.
buildings.
Yes.
And
While they wait
so
their turn
forth.
for the Kiva.
And then,
Yep.
exactly.
Okay, that sounds wonderful. Robin, did you want to say something?
No, that's perfect. Good job.
Perfect. Okay, great.
Yeah, we need,
Do you want to
So
vote
now
on
we
that?
need to, should we vote on that as well, that the
Or-
building
Or by
tours will
consensus, is
happen?
everyone
Yeah,
agreeable
just
to
do
that?
consent.
I know, does anyone object?
No.
Okay. All right, we need to pick a date.
yeah, that's what I'm looking at.
This may not
Oh,
be
boy.
as,
Right.
And
So-
so when you pick a date, keep in mind that prior to that, you want to do a site visit, so you have the benefit, I mean,
Building.
the site visit,
visit there.
so that you have that feedback when they're now in our district and so forth. Because you use that information, that the visiting team, when they went to their area, brought that information back.
I think I'm still confused then.
Okay, so,
The site visit needs to precede everything
yeah,
else?
it should, because that's going to be really valuable information. So if
So
someone's
one of us
in
needs
North,
to go to their current employment?
several people would go to
Yep.
their.
Oh,
Yep.
that is brand new to
Place.
me.
Yep.
Yes.
And we do references.
So you want to, and then
Yes,
there's the
yes.
reference checks, but you need to do that, or you should be doing that, so that that information that you glean from the site visit is being able to be brought back and shared with the committee. And it really should be a couple of school committee members and maybe another person, and you divide up. so that you're not trying to have that, a group of three trying to make all three, you make the.
Now, could we choose the date
Yeah.
of
Right.
first?
That's
Because
what I'd like to.
Yeah,
Yes,
I do also think, correct me if I'm wrong, could a site visit happen post? No?
So,
well, how are you
No.
gonna deliberate
Well,
without that?
if that information, essentially we could choose a candidate, I'm just brainstorming here, and then it could be confirmed with a site visit.
Well, then you still, so
You're
you
still
have
leaving-
finalists.
You're
You
still
have-
leaving it open, you're saying if
Well,
you're,
because you have three finalists.
Right.
So you treat the finalists the same way until you select someone to negotiate.
So really, it's 2 site visits in this case.
no.
Right.
Well,
It's not 3.
yeah,
I just want to put that out.
right.
no.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
no.
yeah.
Because one of the
So-
candidates is the
so-
superintendent, interim superintendent now.
Well,
No.
Oh, well, there's the second. here.
Right, but I'm saying to
Right.
go for,
Yeah, that's-
because
Right.
you have to travel.
Right,
right.
You know,
Yes,
there's
You
travel.
have to travel for 2,
Yes,
not for 3.
Right,
that's,
right,
yeah, say that.
okay.
Okay, so 3 site visits.
One
Yes.
being here.
one being here.
Well, correct, but there's 3 site,
Yeah.
Yeah.
when you say
Yeah.
2, it sounds like we're only going to 2 sites,
No,
right?
no, I
So
meant-
in the
Or-
order of the site visits, not in order, experience from doing site visits, right? And the intangible things that you can't get from any interviews. So when I was on a principal hiring committee, we did 2 different site visits that I was on. Watching the students in the hallways with the principals, the 2 that were interviewed were drastically different, right? So one of the site visits, the principal takes you around. This is the, counseling area, and this is the front office, and this is my, and as the principal's walking down, people are saying, "Hey, mister," and like doing fist bumps, and he'd be like, "Hey, how was the game last night? How'd that go?" And the interactions, right?
Sure.
So they took us a tour, their site visit.
Yeah.
And then ours would be like a buildings and grounds, right? Come see us, site visits 1, and then the other principal just had very, when the principal walked into, I remember vividly, into a teacher's classroom, everyone just kind of like stopped. And it was, so, when we're talking about site visits, I think that should go kind of, it's not at the end, when we've already kind of, yeah, I think it's more in the beginning with the references, it's the beginning, so.
Okay. So are you, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off
And it
if you were
can't,
done.
and it probably shouldn't be done on school vacation.
Right. So this is the,
boy.
go ahead.
So I just want to tell you, I know for a fact, after, I personally have called these candidates, and I will be continuing to call them, is we have an opportunity up until May 4th. And then we would have to wait almost 2 weeks, which brings us to the end of May. So I am proposing maybe Tuesday the 3rd. That will give us 2 weeks to do everything.
Tuesday the 3rd for what?
The interview, the special school committee. Oh, wait a minute, do we
Wait.
have any negotiations or anything today? No.
So Tuesday the 3rd would be the day that the Kiva, the meet and greets, or
Town
the,
meeting things.
yep, the, the building tour, the town, the
Town
public
forum,
forums, and then our interviews, deliberations, and choosing of the candidate, of the new superintendent, would be Tuesday the 3rd. So then we would have, between now and then, reference checks calls need to be made, and we will need to do site visits. I think that we should first just lock in Tuesday the 3rd. Is everybody okay with
Yes,
that?
what I can do is call the candidates tomorrow, and if it's a problem, I'd get back to you. if they can't do that day.
So what are you thinking for times?
Yeah, so, in my own mind, that's a long day and night. I do not want to start deliberating any later than 8 PM personally.
No?
No, but we need an hour per candidate, and people also work, and, obviously, school is in session. So I think the earliest we can start the interviews would be 5 PM.
Oh, I thought you said 8 PM.
Oh, gosh.
You don't want to go after, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So 5
Yeah.
PM, 6 PM, 7 PM would take us till 8 PM to deliberate and hear comments.
So I have a question. I've had a long planned trip and I will be away. Will I be able to participate remotely?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
The governor's order is still in effect that, unless something changes between now and then, but you could certainly join in remotely.
Okay, that, I just have to remember, that is 3 to 6 in the time zone I'm in.
All right.
Or 3.
Is there any objection to May 3rd as the date?
I was just going to suggest another one, and I think whether we meet on that Tuesday or the Friday previous. I know Fridays are, we've done almost every one of these meetings on Fridays.
Fridays, yeah.
So that would be April 29th.
Oh, I'm not here.
And I don't, are you not here, Michelle?
I'm not here.
Okay, so never mind. I mean, but I was just, that gives a lot more flexibility later in the day, instead of a Tuesday. And some of these this is, I think, Tuesday. But if that's our only option, I get it. I was just throwing out.
I could do it remotely.
I'll be on the road. Can't do it.
This is the challenge of a
I know.
12-member committee.
Tuesday's fine. I was just
Yeah.
throwing.
It is good to have 2 dates in case, truly.
What about?
I was just
Renee?
curious if you wanted to consider like doing all of this Tuesday, the interviews, but then having your deliberation say on Thursday of that same week, then you could all have think time about what you saw and heard. And then, your bandwidth wouldn't be spent, I mean, I feel like that's a very long day for all of you to be.
It is.
So,
I
did that with the
yeah.
public hearing,
Mhm.
over the history of when it was a big decision,
Mhm.
give yourself think time between the two.
This is just completely personally, I would rather deliberate when it's fresh. Personally, with the interim superintendent process, people brought up so many things that even when I was sitting there, I had missed, just taking my own notes. So, we can certainly discuss that as a committee if you'd rather it be on separate days.
I mean, if you're looking for opinions, I would rather just go right through with it. And especially if our date is the 4th because someone is leaving, yes?
Or there's a conflict after the 4th.
Well, there were two people
So-
that
Yeah.
had conflict.
Right, and so if we,
Right.
that's that one, and so then if we didn't deliberate until that Thursday, if the candidate was the,
Okay.
I want to do a time check. It's 8 PM. We have a hard stop at 9 PM. And we still have our entire agenda pretty much ahead of us. Not that we can spend the entire meeting discussing this if need be. But perhaps we could, so Tuesday, May 3rd, we've decided upon that. And then if we could decide on a date for, first we need to decide who is calling the candidates for the reference checks. Michelle, you mentioned you would be following up with the candidates, generally speaking. Were you planning on doing the reference checks as well?
Yes.
Okay.
I was going to do the reference checks. I've
Okay.
done them before, so I'm very,
Perfect. And then who can we earmark to do the site visits? Do we have volunteers? Nathan? Okay. Is there another, and this is for all 3, Nathan?
If need be, yep.
It's probably important to have the same people, I'm guessing.
Ooh.
I don't know who said that. Okay. Okay. Yes, absolutely. I was looking for more volunteers. Is there another volunteer to do site visits? Are we able to name the candidates and where they're currently? Okay. I didn't know if maybe the travel was a concern for anyone, if they would want to know that ahead of time.
Well, actually, Nathan knows, so if he's
Oh, okay.
volunteering, he
Perfect.
knows where he has to go.
Okay.
I would be willing to do the site visits. My only availability is on Fridays, though. So if it was like the 29th, I could do a site visit. I hate like pigeonholing you guys to that, but I'd be willing to do it if that was a day we could do it.
We would have to
I
check
know.
with
No,
the,
no, I'm not going.
No, but as
No,
long as it's
you
okay with
go.
the candidate,
Yes.
right? Like,
Okay.
It's really about the
You go.
candidate. So if
When
the
they-
candidate is like, yeah, let's do the 29th, then great.
Yep.
That's when we can go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
okay. Thank you, Stephanie. Is there a third person that would be interested or willing? Okay,
I-
looks
Yeah,
like,
if, we should have three. The other option, nope. Yep,
okay.
I can do
So
that.
Nathan and Stephanie. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And you will be in touch, Michelle, Nathan and Stephanie can be in touch with you to coordinate with the finalists? The date,
Yes, I can coordinate.
with a goal of
with
April
them, but I
29th?
can't go.
Please.
Will you be gone then, Michelle,
No, I
unfortunately?
have another, oh, the 29th, yes.
Okay,
I was
but you
like,
can coordinate that ahead of
I've got
time.
another day job.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, no, we don't want to, and I do want to take a moment and thank Michelle, and thank Alan, and Nathan, and Melissa, and all of the members of the Superintendent Search Subcommittee. That's an enormous amount of work. You've been putting in an incredible amount of time. We're really grateful for you. All right, so it looks
It
like
was
we,
it was a good committee,
Yeah.
actually.
um,
Do you want me to go get Patricia?
No,
as long as everything is,
Do we have to vote on
we certainly can, just to make sure that,
Consensus?
that? Consensus?
Okay.
Consensus.
Yeah.
Are there any objections to the process as we have just laid out? No?
No?
Okay. Excellent. Yes, Michelle. Thank you all.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and I can potentially. Yep.
It's
All of that
the
was
same
May
day.
3rd.
May 3rd. Mm-hmm.
It will also be publicly posted.
Mm-hmm.
It will also be publicly posted?
Mm-hmm.
And we know it will be before 5.
All right.
On my door.
I could also.
She taking a nap?
Well, I wonder if she went to her own.
Was she locked out?
Robin?
What time are you looking to do the Kiva part?
That's a good question.
That-
So,
Starting around 3?
staggered, yeah, 3 PM.
Yeah, they'd be
Um,
staggered, because you start it, and then when one's
Yeah.
gone,
Yeah.
once you
Yeah,
bring
yeah,
the next
yeah.
one.
Yeah.
and
So do we think like 3:30?
We need to
4
check with
o'clock?
them and see when's
Yeah.
when's good with them, but yeah, we
Um,
could, in that time frame.
Yeah, okay. I could send her a message.
She could be in her office.
She might be in her
I can
office.
take a look.
No, no, don't, someone else.
Wait, call her.
That's what she's doing.
Yep. Yep. All right.
Wow.
You never can guess the temperature. Like, it's either
No.
really cold in here or really warm. Michelle?
I would just, would like to move up the senior trip,
Yes.
so that
Yes.
people can leave.
Yep.
That's a great
It's getting late.
suggestion. Okay, so I'm curious about your process of saying that we can just say any objections versus roll call votes. I admit I have not read Robert's Rules of Order. So do we need to,
Sort of like a straw vote, or, you know, it's,
well, we
you know,
typically
by
do a roll call if
consensus.
we move something up on the agenda.
I,
Well, if that's your rules.
No, not mine.
Oh.
I'm just
For-
saying
yeah.
what we've done.
Is it past practice?
for what it's worth, consensus and straw vote goes against Robert's
Rules. Okay.
So it depends on what the committee,
We have followed Robert's rules.
so
Just take a vote.
Yeah, okay.
yeah, I'm okay with, it just,
Yeah.
it doesn't align.
So we are, Michelle made a motion to move up
I'll
the
second
senior
that.
trip. Perfect. Any further discussion? Okay.
Melissa Gary, yes?
Stephanie Winslow, yes.
Nathan Swartz, yes.
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Alan Jennings, yes.
Michelle Geruso, yes.
Raina Jastu, yes.
Robin Knight, yes.
David Young, yes.
Julie Burke, yes. All right. You're welcome to come up. We're just waiting for, and there she is. Great. You can come on up.
Yeah, okay.
And thank you for your patience.
It's like a talk show host. Come on down.
I know, come on. I would love to give her a prize, so. So if you could please state your name and your grade.
My name is Kenzie Gibson. I'm the senior class president.
Great. Thanks, Kenzie.
Yeah.
Yep, you can go ahead.
So this year's senior class has truly gone through some trials and tribulations. COVID, remote learning, fundraisers put on hold, mask mandates, and watching previous graduations and proms be canceled or changed, worrying that might be us. But finally, we have some sense of normalcy. Our class has come together and has made the money we need to go on a senior class trip. We want to make memories together and build our community as the class of 2022. We are here tonight seeking approval for our trip. All the paperwork has been submitted, and we are here to answer any questions.
Thank you.
Great, thank you, Kenzie. So in our packet here, if I'm not mistaken, we have the information regarding the field trip, the senior class trip. So it looks like an educational and fun senior trip for a class of 2022 in celebration for the upcoming graduation. This is for grade 12, obviously, number of students 17. The dates are May 14th. Is that a Friday, I think? Yep.
Saturday.
Saturday through May 16th. So that is through Monday. It appears that there are 3 PVRS teachers and staff that will be in attendance and 3 chaperones / parents, 2 of whom it looks like are drivers only. So would you like to tell us a little bit about the trip?
Yeah, so our trip, like we talked about, is to Rhode Island. We're planning on staying at a motel. The motel, they've offered to, it's 10 rooms, so they've offered to just rent it all out to us. Our plan is, because of having such a small class, and then also having whoever it works within their schedule to come on the trip, we're down to 17. So we wanted to kind of leave out the part of paying for a bus, because it was going to be almost $5,000 and just kind of unreasonable considering the size of our class. So we decided to go on with some of our staff members at Pioneer and then some parents. As you can see, we have all the staff members are already Corey checked, and then I have a few other parents that are already Corey checked or are starting their process and getting Corey'd. And our plan is to spend those 2 days there, just being able to spend some time with the class, and it's also during the Spring Fest there, which is just kind of like a little festival where you can go around and there's music and local bands and like food. And so we were gonna go to that and have kind of making it more open and more of like a little bit of freedom in our trip, but also keeping it kind of obviously being able to be watched over. And once we got back on how many people would be able to go, we saw that there would be a 1 to 4 or 5 staff ratio to student ratio.
Question?
Yes, please.
So this sounds like a fun trip. How did you come about, picking this as the place to that you wanted to go?
So we reached out to a lot of different places of like commerce and talking to them about where was a good place to go, especially because with even just with a class our size, finding a hotel or place that will like be able to take that is really hard. And so when we talked to our class, a lot of people talked about, they mentioned Rhode Island, and these are also past trips that people have talked about that came up.
Nice, thank you.
Yep.
Karen?
Maybe you could tell us how many will not be able to go on the trip?
Yeah, so we have, is it 24? Yeah, so there are 5 not going on the trip. Yeah,
Okay.
so we had 1 not interested, and 4 other were dually enrolled students that just, when we sent the offer out to them, they respectfully declined.
Mhm. Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? All right, so we can entertain a motion regarding the senior class trip. Anyone willing to do so?
I move that we approve the class of 2022 overnight class trip to Winnipeg,
Westerly?
Rhode Island, or Westerly, Rhode Island.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
And so that's on 5/14.
Yes, through 5/16. Yep.
Very good.
So Melissa, roll call vote?
Melissa Gary, yes.
Stephanie Winslow, yes.
Nathan Swartz, yes.
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Alan Genovese, yes.
Michelle Geruso, yes.
Raina Dastu, yes.
Robin Knight, yes.
David Young, yes.
And Julie Burke Northfield, yes. All right, wonderful. You're welcome.
you,
Thank you for
guys.
your patience, too. You
Have
did a great job.
You did.
All right. Then we will resume our scheduled order here with our superintendent report.
Okay.
And thank you for your patience,
You're
Patricia.
welcome. I had a nice walk outside. I am reporting to you on the status of the principal search for this school and the Director of Finance and Operations search. I will start with the latter. I extended the posting on the Director of Finance and Operations search. We have had few candidates, some of whom don't have close to the qualifications that we are seeking. So, here is my current thinking. I had my monthly meeting with the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, including Alan came by to pick something up in the office and joined us for part of that conversation, including with Associate Commissioner Jay Sullivan. They are aware of our search. Cami Lamika, our fiscal overseer, is going to the MASBO, which is the State Business Administrators Association conference in several weeks, and she will be doing outreach to see if she can find us someone. So she is going to be beating the bushes, as it were, for a regular applicant. She's going to be looking for recently retired folks who are doing interim gigs, perhaps a full-time person who could tide us over for a year or two. She will also be looking for people who are experienced and would be willing to serve as perhaps something like a full day a week on-site mentor to a person we hire who perhaps doesn't have the level of experience we would have liked. She herself, again, started out as an auditor with Melanson Heath and then had 22 years of Director of Finance experience in public schools. She is an experienced person. She is performing that exact role in the Northampton schools. She's working a day a week with them. So it is more than a phone call away mentor with whom one might have a weekly or biweekly hour-long meeting. There is another option of, I don't want to name the district. There's another option the department suggested we explore, which is a local district that has an experienced person who might be interested in performing that day-a-week role if their district were to allow them to do so. So you approved $125,000 for this position. If we went the route of hiring someone who has less experience but seems great, we would then give them a lower salary and invest the remainder in paying for a high-quality, one-day-a-week person. I want to reiterate that I feel strongly about the need to have a full-time person on site. You've heard me say it. I don't need to say that. Okay. So I have not even put together the search committee. I have to reopen that posting. Closes tomorrow. I'm gonna change it to open until filled. I will also reiterate. There's a bunch of us out there looking right now. There are a number of Western Massachusetts districts that are looking. Our salary looks good against some of those, so that you were wise to do that. I will keep you updated.
I want to thank you because that's actually the responsibility of the school committee to hire the, and Patricia graciously.
But you said, yeah,
right.
yeah.
So we appreciate that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's actually the work that the superintendent does, and it's the recommendation that she brings, and then we do the hiring. But the superintendent usually brings the recommendation to the committee.
Okay, thank you.
And again, there is a webpage. We have a finance webpage that has the posting, that has information. The principal search, there is a webpage, again, that has, has the posting, has the calendar, has the names of the committee members. There is a link to the candidate profile that was developed through the survey that was posted on the website. So we're trying to be as transparent and organized as possible. We extended the posting to generate more candidates. We were successful in that. We have interviews on the 26th and 27th of April. I would prefer not to share publicly the number of applicants or the number of folks to be interviewed in the initial round because that could prejudice our position when it comes time to negotiate with someone. So we have interviews coming up, and I will keep you posted. The committee is doing lovely work. It's a nice group. They have gelled. We have our interview questions ready to go, and that is my update.
Great.
Oh, wait, sorry.
That's okay.
Something so exciting about BES and the ratio of trash to compost. Do you want to say something? Do you want me to say it? Okay, I actually made a little graph. So, Mike Honorato has had a great interest in making sure that our composting program in the buildings is up and running. COVID slowed us down. Oh my gosh. The name of the person from the Franklin County Solid Waste, Amy Donovan. Okay, shout out to Amy Donovan. Some of you are nodding your heads.
Yeah.
And Gretchen Licata. I am so excited about this. And BES and our kids. I got an email last night from Gretchen saying that they had their first day of starting composting over again, and they generated 2.5 pounds of trash and 34 pounds of compost in the cafeteria at lunch. So how about that for a ratio?
Yeah.
2.5 to 34.
Yeah.
Lead the way, children. So now I'm done.
Okay, great. And one more thing, actually, from I saw a bit of press this week.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I need to. No, you do
no,
that.
Mr. Heffernan.
Sorry, John Heffernan.
No, that's okay. Mr. Heffernan's 7th grade class was featured in the Recorder. I think it was yesterday or today.
No, yesterday. I think.
Yesterday. About how they build video games. And it was a really great article, and it was such a nice picture of the students and Mr. Heffernan. So
He does lovely work with the students, and they are so engaged. It's a great program. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Let's hope Judy hung in there with us. Judy, are you there for our Director of Finance report?
I am.
You are, Judy. Thank you.
It's not COVID. That's the good thing. It's mega cold going around, and so it has come to visit me.
Well, we appreciate that you are not feeling well, but you still made it a priority to to give us our vital information here on the finances. So you can go ahead and take it away.
All right, so looking at the results of operations through the end of March, again, we have total expenses year-to-date of $9,578,585. We have total encumbrances year-to-date of $4,421,375, and our balance is quite healthy. It is $851,331 at this point in time. Couple things that you requested at the last meeting was that I standardized the colors on the dashboard, which I did, so I hope that's helpful in terms of looking at that graphic.
Yes.
And then I also put in the memo that I sent to you, all of the categories and what those are, so that you're aware of what those categories are. PMS met with the business office staff on Wednesday, April 6th. We looked at this results. There are some items that are showing some deficits. We're taking a look at purchase orders to make sure that journal entries are up to date, that, purchase orders that may need to be closed out because they're done are being closed out. So we're working on that. So we don't have any transfers for you this evening, but we'll bring those forward in May once we get that cleanup done. And then, speaking of assessments, just to answer Mr. Genevieve's question about that, basically what the school committee does is you vote the budget, and then from there, the calculations for the assessments are done, and then the treasurer sends a letter certifying to all of the towns what their portion of the assessments is. So, as you know, Interim Superintendent Kinsella had said that there were some issues with some of the enrollment numbers. She took the time, and I appreciate it, to really go in and do a deep dive, cleaned it up a little bit. So it's changed some of the percentages from what you saw in the budget a little bit, but not anything super crazy. So the letters have gone out to the treasurers of the towns, as well as all of the other folks who need to have this information, along with the full assessment sheet, which is in your packet. So that was all done just in time to meet the 30-day deadline after the vote. So we're in a good place there. The other thing we wanted to bring forward to you was tuition rates for next year. The Vermont Agency of Education publishes rates each year for students and for school districts that don't operate a certain level school, and Vernon, Vermont is one of those. They have elementary schools, they don't have a secondary school. So the FY22 rates, the maximum that could be charged to a district as determined by the Vermont Agency of Education is $16,842. You voted last year to cap it at $16,800. I met with Superintendent Kinsella. We took a look at the numbers for this year. They're up a little bit. $17,278 is the maximum that could be charged. So what we are proposing tonight is that ask you to vote a tuition rate of $17,200. You want me to keep going, Madam Chair, or?
Yes, please.
Okay. So because we had over $750,000 in federal expenditures during FY21 with all of the ESSER money and CVRF money, all of that business, it requires an audit of those funds. Our auditors are still working on the general fund audit. They are short-staffed, so like a lot of places, so they are trying to get through as much as they can. As soon as they get through the regular audit, then they will do this single audit that will look at a couple of federal grants, and they'll be testing on that. The engagement letter that was in your packet specified a price of $8,000. Obviously, when we bring the transfers forward in May, we'll include that amount as a transfer into the business office contracted services line. The monthly food service reports, I don't know if Mike is in the room.
Yes, Mike is here.
Okay, so Mike, take it away. And then we're going to share, after Mike is done with the regular reporting, we're going to share some things that we have recently learned about food service moving forward.
Good evening, everyone.
Hi, Mike.
Hi.
Hi. So March was a good month for us, but for operations-wise, it was
Make sure that the mic is close, really close.
a little closer?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
There you go.
So operations-wise, we had 22 full days of school in the month of March. So the more days of operation, the higher the revenue that we are able to make, and the more kids we're able to serve. So in the month of March, our total revenue was $76,997.97. Our total expenses were $28,695.68, leaving us with a net profit of $48,302.29. That's a little bit skewed. We did have a supply chain assistance fund grant come through for $14,188.74. That's part of the reason this number seems awfully inflated. The other part is, as you know, we pay our warrants each month for the prior month. So we had a lot of operating days. We made a lot of revenue, but in the month of February, we only had 14 operating days, so our expenses were much lower. So to put it in perspective, this month in April, we're going to have 3 pay periods. We're going to be paying the warrant from last month, what we actually spent, and only 16 operating days. So we're going to lose money in April. It's an ebb and flow, but all in all, our balance, including the summer salaries not yet incurred, is positive $125,555.85 so far this year. The major reason for that, our participation is running at about 69% right now. When I started in the district, we were at about 41%, and before COVID, stopped everything, we had gotten up to about 51%. So right now, serving more kids, increasing participation is the way that we've been able to pull this program out of the red, and I think we're doing pretty well.
Yeah. Looks like.
Do you think that more kids are buying lunches because the costs have gone up and parents maybe can't afford to?
They're free.
So there's a number of different
wait a
reasons.
minute, it's free right now.
Yeah.
It's free.
Sorry, it's free, I know
To
that.
put it in perspective, my
come to
son at his elementary school,
Yeah.
we've always made him lunch. Well, when everything started with universal free meals, I know that it helps fund my son's school district. So, hey, Ray, you're going to have breakfast and lunch at school. Really? I get to have breakfast and lunch? Yes, you do. Have breakfast and lunch at school. So it's a positive thing. It helps my son's school district. And I think that we probably do have individuals in our community that probably do the same thing.
Mine are actually double dipping. They eat breakfast at home and then go to school and gobble down the breakfast. So I'm grateful. They are too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
So,
to
sorry,
further
go
that,
ahead.
I was reading ahead at what our challenges are, because they're not going to be free in the future
So-
unless the state picks it up, right?
Well, the state or federal government. But Judy has something that she wants to go ahead and put up on the screen and share with us. And
okay.
her and I can walk you through that.
Yep. Hold on just one moment. There we go. So, Mike and I met a couple of weeks ago to discuss, the food service program and where things stood. And so we want to just kind of divide this up into 3 areas: what we know, what we anticipate, what we don't know yet. So this is what we know thus far, that the USDA has announced that they're going to stop the free meal program in FY23. We also know that there's been a move to get the Massachusetts legislature to fill that gap. That was not in the governor's budget. The House budget came out yesterday. I've been waiting for the cherry sheets to show up. But the budget obviously has to go through the House, has to go through the Senate. So whether or not it would be amended, and by the time the thing goes through conference committee and onto the governor's desk for signature, it will be mid to late June. So, that's what we know, that there is a move, but that's a long process. The increase in goods and services, Mike was able to find some information on that, and what he has learned is that they are anticipating in food service programs a 5 to 6% increase in goods and services for next year. So what we anticipate if we revert to the old system, as Mike mentioned, we have a very large increase because of the universal free meals for all. So we're guessing that participation is likely to decrease by 18 to 20%, which was bringing it down to the pre-pandemic levels. We also believe that the USDA reimbursements for school lunches will likely decrease. We don't know by how much. Currently, the USDA reimburses us $2.61 for breakfast and $4.62 for lunch. What we don't know is, will Massachusetts pick up universal free meals? We don't know what the USDA reimbursement rates will be. And would there be some potential increases that might need to be enacted for those paying for meals? And you can see on this slide, as well as the memo I sent you, what the current prices are for students. This is not anything we're asking you to act on tonight. We just wanted to make you aware that this is something on our radar screen, and Mike and I are staying in close contact with each other to make sure that, we have the best information that we can give to you around this.
So to follow up a little bit on what Judy was mentioning about what's happening in the Massachusetts legislature. Yesterday, the House of Representatives added $110 million to the budget for FY23 to include free meals for all students in Massachusetts. In May, it's going to be voted on by the Senate, if the Senate adds it to their budget as well, and then it'll move on to the governor. Again, it's one of those things, we won't know any information until June or July. Historically, I would come in front of you in August to discuss any possible increases that we have to make for our school lunch prices, because we do have we're mandated to charge at least a minimum amount. 2 years ago, I came in front of you in August, and we went ahead and changed the prices, which is a moot point it was a moot point, we just didn't know that. But I'll have more information for you in July, and you'll be able to see it, and we can have this discussion again in August.
So that's it for our report for this evening's meeting. The one item that would need a school committee vote is the tuition rates for students coming from Vermont.
Okay. Any more questions for Judy? Melissa?
I actually don't have a question for Judy, but I have a food services
Sure.
question. So pre-pandemic, dietary restrictions were a little different than food during pandemic, right? They changed
Yes and no.
some guidelines? Okay.
The guidelines haven't changed. There have been waivers that were offered by the USDA.
Yep.
So we applied for waivers in 2020. Those waivers went through that following school year, the FY21. We applied for waivers again this year. Some of those waivers had to do with congregate feeding. They had to do with sodium levels, vegetables, vegetable subgroups, because again, it's very hard to get just about anything at this point. And so, yeah, we did have a lot of waivers. So a lot of times, and it's like this around the country, a lot of times, those of us in running SFA, school food service operations, we have to serve whatever we can get. So if apples may be on the menu, well, you're going to get grapes. Or we have broccoli. Well, we can't get broccoli now because frozen broccoli, we can't get it. So now we're having romaine lettuce or Caesar salad.
Yeah. The reason why I was asking is we were watching the news a couple weeks ago, and there was a news event that they were going back to the lower sodium. There was some discussion. I don't remember it. All I remember is my son saying, "Are we not going to get the chocolate donuts anymore?" So I know that there was food that was on a waiver that came through. We are one of the families who, instead of counting out the days that, okay, I'm paying $3.25 for you this day, and then find out he eats a peanut butter and jelly, that's not what I paid for, right? So now it's just like, yeah, go to school, off you go, like, and eat what you want, and but I think if the dietary changes and it, that would be
So the main
part of it.
changes in the compliance that we have to worry about in school food service is sodium levels. So in 2018 or 2019, the USDA at that time, they suspended some of the sodium requirements. And they also suspended some of, instead of the whole grain requirements. So from 100% whole grain, or they wanted 70 or 80% whole grain, it was down to 51%. So just more than half the time you have to serve whole grains. The sodium levels, they changed those guidelines, and the information that you had seen, and I know it seems all doom and gloom, but we really don't use salt anyways, because once we start, it's hard to go back. They are going to start going down over the next couple of years. So they're phasing it back in. It's something that's going to happen, but it's not going to change really what we serve. It just may mean we use a little more garlic and onion powder than we did salt for a specific recipe. It's not that much. But those whole grain chocolate donuts, they're not going anywhere. If we can purchase them, but other than that.
He'll be happy to know that. But
Perfect.
perfect.
So,
You mentioned whole grain chocolate donuts.
Mike, are these minimums tied to the poverty rate? I mean, these are big prices for people to afford.
Yes and no. So the USDA sets their reimbursement rates based on poverty levels and that information. The minimum rates that we have to charge for 2 students and 2 adults is based off of a formula that involves that the reimbursement rate from the USDA.
Okay.
So as soon as that changes, and they'll update it
into
on July 1 or the first week of July, and then myself and my peers will start cringing and figuring out what we have to tell you we have to charge.
Robin?
I was just going to point out that we could reach out to our legislators and tell them how important and this bill has been to our district and the free lunches. And-
So I have a list and a link and a template for
Yeah,
you to
that'd
be
be
able
great.
to use. I will forward it to Interim Superintendent Kinsella, and she will distribute it to all of you. I've been sending an email every 2 or 3 days. Whenever I actually remember to do it, I'm sitting in my office, I just keep sending them.
Can we send that out to our parents also? Because that would be important to do also.
I did post something on our food service Facebook page a little while back, but it doesn't mean that information can't make it into our newsletter.
Great, thank you.
I'm not sure if we can solicit parents to,
Political engagement.
right.
So this information that the information that I said that I have, it came from Project Bread, which is funded by DESE, and
So we'll just check on it. I mean, it
Absolutely.
certainly sounds like
Absolutely.
it would be fine, but.
I think I don't know the legality of it, but I can't imagine that sharing information about supporting a program that benefits our students is, I don't know, political.
Well, so the way to do it is to share the information that the legislature is considering a bill that would do this, and we urge you to let them know how you feel about it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Either way.
Yeah,
yes, you can do that.
Perfect.
yeah.
great.
It has to be neutral.
Neutral, right.
Yeah.
Share with them your thoughts. Yep, okay.
I do have a
Yes.
question. It might seem silly, but it's
No
from the expenditure sheet, the multi-page one on page 2. I was just wondering how the special needs department just had dropped on it extra money for postage, if I'm reading this correctly.
Which page is it?
2,
Of the,
because we have parentheses there, and
we recently, Judy, is this to do with the new postage machines?
Yes, yes, it is. So we will be enacting a budget transfer to make that line whole.
wait, that line looks like it's way above what it needs to be. That money has just been added to the account. Isn't that what the parentheses mean?
Okay, so the budget was 2,300.
Yep.
Looks like we have spent 26.
Mm-hmm.
Are we?
Oh,
No.
No?
We have,
I guess we should, Judy can explain it.
what do the parentheses mean, in other words?
Depends on what column you're in, but if you're looking at the expenditure report,
Yeah,
the parentheses at the end of the budget balance, if a line is overspent, that's what the parentheses.
I understand that, but we have range to date and year to date that have parentheses around them. And we
Right,
still
we
show
have-
a positive
right.
balance.
Right. We have not, And this is in postage on page 2. I
Yeah,
am
right in the middle.
Finding you, Karen, I'm sorry.
Orange.
I'll look into it. Yeah, I mean, this is all part of all of the cleanup that needs to be done, so we'll be working diligently on that.
But it looks like some cleanup has already been done. It looks like money's been put into this account already, from my reading of it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that, I'll have to take a peek at that.
Okay,
It would be one of those transfers that would not require your vote or the commissioner's approval if it's in special education. Because that's one control center. So I will check into that.
okay, thank you. And I did have a question on the accounts payable that you were going to look into for me.
Okay, remind me of the question, I'm sorry.
It was about why so many athletic user fees were refunded.
Right, what happened, to my understanding, was that some students were overcharged in the fall. So I think, my understanding is that when kids first signed up, they were charged the wrong rates, so that's a refund of the rates. And then the rest of it is just if a student signs up for a team and then decides not to play, then that money is refunded to the student.
Okay, I just hadn't ever seen that before, so, thank you.
Any other questions for Judy?
You need a motion for
Yeah.
tuition?
Yeah, tuition.
And I,
Yeah, that is in under business.
oh,
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Any more questions for Judy about anything? Okay. And now, now we'll move on to business. So the Vernon tuition rate for 2023.
I'll move the tuition rate, I'll move the tuition rate be $17,200.
278.
Oh, no, 17,200.
I'll second that.
Okay, any further discussion? All right, Melissa?
Melissa Gary, yes.
Stephanie Winslow, yes.
Ethan Swartz, yes.
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Alan Genovese, yes.
Michelle Jeruso, yes.
Raina Dastu, yes.
Robin Knight, yes.
David Young, yes.
All right, Julie Burke, yes. Great, thank you, everyone. It is 8:45. We have 15 minutes. So why don't we just forge ahead here? We have the 22 to 23 school year calendar. Anything we should be aware of, Patricia?
Yes.
Okay.
Everyone has the calendar in front of them? In your packets, you should have this year's calendar, which has a little bit of color, and behind it would be the current school year calendar. So we want to point out that we're trying some different formatting this year, make it a little more streamlined.
I like it.
Thank you. Okay. Let's see. The two areas to point out.
There it is.
I have talked to you before about our fall in-service day for educators that traditionally has been at the end of October. We have an opportunity that we have explored through the Collaborative for Education Services. A number of local districts will be holding their in-service day on Election Day, Tuesday, November 8th, which will allow us to have cross-district opportunities for some of our educators, and we will have the support of CES in actually managing that, so we don't have to invent everything for educators who would participate in those opportunities. We might be able to host some opportunities. So I am putting forward to you a calendar that instead of having an in-service day, maybe it would have been Friday, October 28th, I think, Renee, would you say, that last Friday? Instead, it is Tuesday, November 8th, which means that there are 2 days that week during which kids don't have school. So that makes that an interrupted week. I want to be clear about that. On the other hand, it means that that last week in October is a full week of school. So there's 1 week with more interruption, but there's another week that has no interruption. So I'm pointing that out. The other time period I want to point out to you is the December vacation. So on this calendar, December 22nd is blue, which means that it is a half day. It is in the teacher's contract. We have an MOA with the teachers. Renee, make sure I say this correctly, okay? The MOA says that the teachers will have a half day on the day before the December vacation. There are some other half days, but that's okay. In the PVASP, in the support personnel contract, we have 4 employee groups in that contract: the instructional assistants, administrative assistants, food service workers, and custodians. Of those 4, the custodians are the only 12-month employees. The custodians have language that gives them the day before Christmas as a holiday. Christmas is 24-25. Christmas is Sunday, so we have to back that up. We have Friday the 23rd off to accommodate the need in the contract to give the custodians the day off before the vacation. The day before, we have to do a half day because the teacher contract says there's a half day. We explored options. We have had, and very collaborative, thank you, Renee, thank you, both unions, very, very collaborative, you know, really thinking about this, which is why I asked if I could have a bit more time to keep talking about things. We explored seeing if we could move the custodian holiday into the vacation week, and it wasn't going to work. I don't think there is anything else of particular note on this calendar.
Alan?
No, it's for discussion. I mean, I would move that we accept the calendar as presented. I don't see any major issues. It is what it is, and it had input from everyone, so if they're happy with it, I'm happy with it.
Is there a second? Second. Any further discussion? Okay, Melissa?
Melissa Gary, yes.
Stephanie Winslow, yes.
Nathan Swartz, yes.
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Alan Genovese, yes.
Michelle Giruso, yes.
Raina Dastu, yes.
Robin Knipe, yes.
David Young, yes.
Julie Burke, yes. Excellent, that's unanimous, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we have 10 minutes.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I'm guessing that the way that the private vehicles policy has gone, no, I don't mean to historically.
We got it.
We got it. You're confident.
That we do.
Oh, we do, but if it comes down to one or the other, I would like to get the therapy dog one out of the way so we can get that dog back in the school.
Okay. Does anyone object to moving the therapy dogs conversation next? Well, actually, if I'm gonna do Robert's rules, can I entertain a motion for
So
moving
moved.
the therapy?
Let's move it
Thank you.
along. So moved.
I'll
Second, perfect. Melissa?
Melissa Gary, yes.
Stephanie Winslow, yes.
Nathan Swartz, yes.
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Alan Jennings, yes.
Michelle Druso, yes.
Raina Dastu, yes.
Robin
Okay.
Knight, yes.
Oops.
David?
David abstain.
Okay. And Julie Burke, yes. All right, therapy dogs in schools policy.
Okay. So, everyone is, instead of chomping at the bit, pulling at the leash to get the process approved so the service can resume. This version is identical except for the highlighted language on page 2. The last sentence, let me see. We put in the word minimal additional duties and does not substantially increase or change the nature of the workload. This makes it eligible for an MOA, which is stated, that's a new sentence at the end. And I just was handed, when I came in tonight, the MOA, as you were. I had no idea it would be ready so quickly. And it has been executed by the parties involved.
It has not been executed, it has been reviewed, and the PVREA has said they are good with it.
They are good with it. That is good. Okay. What would executed mean?
Signed.
Signed. Okay, got it. All right. So our subcommittee was in unanimous agreement that we should recommend this to you.
I move that we approve the policy on therapy dogs in the Pioneer Valley Regional School Districts, and just note that the attorney did review and gave us feedback, which is included.
Second?
Second, great. Any further discussion? All right, Melissa?
Melissa Gary, yes.
Stephanie Winslow, yes.
Nathan Swartz, yes.
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Alan Genovese, yes.
Michelle Druso, yes.
Raina Dastu, yes.
Robin?
Robin Knight, yes, sorry.
That's okay.
David, yes.
And Julie Burke, yes. All right,
Okay.
thank you.
So do we go on, or what do we say?
We have 6 minutes, we might as,
Just a
oh,
point of
go
order.
ahead, yep.
So since they're linked together, did you want to take a vote on the memorandum of agreement? So in order to do this, we would have to do this action.
Okay.
And may I make a comment
Sure,
here?
please.
Um,
Just jumping in.
Thank you, Alan. I want you to know that Adam Duperret is the attorney who drafted this, and Adam advised me that we do not, this particular MOA would not need to go to the negotiation subcommittee for review and approval before bringing it to the full subcommittee. There is no money changing here, and there is one other important reason he said why this doesn't need to go to negotiations. He said it would be okay to bring this to the committee for an up and down vote right away, meaning without
We can do
negotiations.
it. Okay.
And the reason why it's blank is because we were waiting for the execution of.
Yep.
Perfect.
Exactly.
All right.
So I move that we approve this MOA as written.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Great. Further discussion? Melissa?
Melissa Gary, yes.
Stephanie Winslow, yes.
Nathan Swartz, yes.
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Alan Genovese, yes.
Michelle Druso, yes.
Raina Dastu, yes.
Robin Knight, yes.
David Young, yes.
Julie Burke, yes. Perfect. So that is a unanimous yes. I think that, well, I will certainly.
Julie?
Yes.
Just as a closing thing, so note the date, this expires at the end of this year, so this will be coming up again, because it was only 1 year.
That's good to, through the remainder of this
That's right.
school year.
I just want to
Okay.
point that out, so we'll be
No, that's
seeing it
great.
again, okay?
Yep.
Thank you.
I have to be top of mind for next school year. We do have a hard stop at 9 PM. It is 8:56. So,
I think it might take a little bit more than 3 or 4 minutes to describe the several changes that were made for various reasons, not all the same reason. And I intended to go through each one with you tonight.
Okay.
So it's okay with us, I believe, if we wait until next week.
okay. And at that time, I know that we have been overdue on our subcommittee reports. I also received notification from a couple of the subcommittee chairs that they would be able to present next week, would be better for them. So it seems like it was serendipitous that, we ran out of time tonight anyway. But we will be meeting again next week, April 21st. 7 PM, right here in the library, as well as via Google Meet. So I can entertain a motion to,
So
sorry, go
before,
ahead.
if you don't mind,
No, go
just
ahead.
as a real quick comment. So it came to my attention through an email that Bill Toom, who's on the Sixtown Regional Planning Board, had a meeting with the faculty. And
With the what?
with the faculty.
Faculty.
And both of the school districts. And during that process of explaining what we were about, no decisions have been made. We have a long way to go. We're on information gathering. And so, Pioneer teachers had a lot of good questions and concerns and so forth, which he did, I thought, a great job sharing at our Sixtown Regional Planning Board meeting. The gist of it, of the communication from Claire Brennan, was that, staff is, I think the word was afraid or worried about a number of things. And I don't know if I can, eliminate a fear, because that's in the minds of the person, looking at this. We're all looking at, what might be in the best interest of kids, but we don't know what that is. We were charged by the towns to explore this, and so, that's what we're doing, and the best way to do that is to engage all the stakeholders, even if it causes some, concerns. We can't not get all the voices heard, so we can pull together all those concerns and issues, as well as, the benefits and so forth. So that's the process we're going through. We've hired the facilitator that you met through the previous process. Has a wonderful demeanor. She will work, I believe, very well with the staff. And so we'll be doing that over the next couple of months. So we will continue to upgrade our efforts to put more memos out to parents that you could probably put out in our behalf, to keep people informed, to the staff, to both staffs, so that people at least know what we're learning and where we're headed in that process. We have another meeting next Wednesday. Those are always open to the public, so if anyone has any concerns or would like to watch them. Additionally, we put on every agenda, and we try to mark it as much as possible. Go to the website. We have so much stuff that we have gained over the last several years. I think the one thing that I want to point out is, some people said, well, this seems to be a long process or a foregone conclusion. It can't be a foregone conclusion, because we actually, when the pandemic hit, we used to meet in person. We slowed the process way down, because we realized to engage people, it's very, very difficult. We did the best we could to get information remotely, but there is so much you don't get. And to the point that you raised, doing site visits, you learn so much through that process that you can't get, just doing interviews. And I feel the same way about remotely conducting meetings. I think there's a lot we're missing. So I look forward to engaging more with the stakeholders and hearing what they have to say and what might be possible and what are the challenges. So I just didn't want to leave this meeting and not recognize that we know that there's concerns and people are worried. We get that.
Karen, then Melissa.
At that meeting you referenced here with the faculty. Oh, thank you. At the meeting you referenced here at Pioneer in this room, I was in attendance as well. And I also went to the meeting at the Turner's Falls school with their teachers. And the reactions seemed to be quite different in the two places. There were more questions and more concerns among our faculty than there were at Turner's Falls. And I'm not sure whether it's because our faculty hasn't known as much about the process all through it, because we have many new faculty members on the staff here who may not have heard anything about it, or that the concern is more about a larger school district kind of subsuming a smaller one. That's always a possibility in people's minds. So thank you, Alan, for making that clear. And I think we have to just keep sending out messages that there's no decision that has been made. And our job is to gather the data. And if we see a clear path toward a recommendation or a non-recommendation, then we do it, substantiated with the data. But that's what our job is. We'd have no preconceived objective we're moving toward there. Okay?
Thank you, Karen. Melissa.
So my question was for Alan, but I think Karen just answered it. When you said someone came and presented to the teachers, that was part of the six-town process? It wasn't during the day, or it wasn't part of I'm wondering if he came as a speaker to share information, or if it was one of the listening sessions that was scheduled.
So this was an opportunity to provide an update to the staff, and so that if they didn't know, like Karen said, a lot of new teachers and teachers that really haven't been following. Yeah. So it was an opportunity to bring them up to date on what's been happening in the last 3 years. But then more importantly, he was a great listener. It opened up to talk to me, tell me how you feel about it. And so it became, once they had information and understanding about it, they then shared, they reacted to that information in different ways.
I think her question may have been what was the forum? So was this
A faculty meeting.
A faculty meeting.
And did that happen at all three schools?
All three.
Karen, you were there.
It was only 2 schools, because elementary schools would be substantially unchanged under the scenarios we have looked at.
So it was Pioneer and Turner's Falls?
Right, high school.
So, but this would be an entire district change?
Yes.
So if it's a 6 towns, right, all the towns would be coming together, but you'd be realigning and recreating a brand-new district?
Yes.
In which?
Yes.
Well, elementary may stay within their towns, but absolutely, contracts of those teachers move.
Yes.
So
That's
if
right.
you are now
That's
a
right.
new district.
That's right. You're right.
So I'm curious why that didn't happen to all
Well,
three, if it was in a faculty meeting presentation. Excuse me.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And my next question is, so transitioning from Alan, because you answered it, it was a faculty meeting, not a listening session. And then I may not have realized, are you on the 6th town?
Yes.
Okay, so when you were saying we, you're referring to your role on the 6th? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so.
I think the emphasis is on the schools that would physically combine at this point.
So, yes, but that's physical buildings, that's not contracts.
Well,
right? So
absolutely, that's
if it's
part
a kindergarten
of it.
teacher.
I understand that, and the team understands that.
Okay, and we don't have to take any more time, but
Okay.
I wanted clarification, and I got it,
Okay.
that faculty meetings happened not at all schools.
Right, and just
Okay.
at this point in time, I do want to say that
This is the
two
last
consultants
point,
ago,
Alan.
the
Yep,
two
just for-
consultants ago, they, the Mars had met with teachers, administrators in the elementary schools to see what they thought of, what programs might happen. And their reaction was, well, we have our own autonomy, we don't expect that it's going to be, changing. And so their conversation was around if there were things happening at the middle school, high school, then they would want to be able to have feeder programs. So if there was let's say a language or something, or a related arts, that they would then be, want to have the opportunity to prepare their students for that. So that's where that conversation went. But it was focused on the middle high school.
Okay, thank you. It's now 9:07,
Yeah.
so we're going to, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
A second?
I'll second it.
Further discussion? Okay, Melissa?
Melissa Gary, yes.
Stephanie Winslow, yes.
Ethan Swartz, yes?
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Alan Genovese, yes.
Michelle Jeruso, yes.
Raina Dasty, yes.
David?
David Young, yes.
Robin stated she had to leave, thank you. And Julie Burke, Northfield, yes. Great, thank you, everyone.
Robin.
Oh, what did you say, David?
I said I was waiting for Robin.
All right. Thank you, have a good night.
Good night.